Convincingly the lead. Welcome then to our coverage of the World Cyclocross Championships. The first time that we have open racing, that's between the professionals and the amateurs on the same day. Normally the Championship of the World has had the amateurs on the Saturday and the pros on the Sunday afternoon, with the juniors setting off the proceedings on the Sunday morning. Well, certainly the junior race will be full of interest again this year, with the defending champion taking part in the event, and the media you see here gathered in great profusion, the vehicles that are collecting the television pictures and pumping them out across the world. And that's the course that we're going to cover, and the riders are going to cover. And you can see actually top right hand corner some sort of graphic showing you the way they go up the slope and down the other side. It looks a bit like an operation, doesn't it? They're taking their stomach out and put it on the television set in front of it. But I can show you that it zigzags all over the place. This is the climb up here, and it goes across dunes. I can tell the graphic at the top right hand corner looks like something out of a kid's computer game. Out there, it is a course that's attracted a lot of attention, because it takes part across the sand dunes at Coxdate, and the course in fact got so waterlogged a couple of days ago that they had to bring in the pumps to empty the water out. And unfortunately yesterday the wind that blew on Friday and again yesterday seems to have added to the drying out process, and the course you're looking at now has become a lot faster, although there are still some very, very wet patches on it. So a lot of work put in by the Belgian Federation organising this championship here. And there you can see the little spot 2 kilometres to go. As they come back down in towards that finishing straight, they will actually run into a headwind, because if that's actually upside down, that course, the north is not in the north there, the north is down the bottom where that little start line is there. So they're going to be running into a headwind, because that goes from right to left, not left to right. I don't know why the graphics that way around, but that's the way it is. And they'll be running along that dead straight into what's going to be quite a tough old headwind. See around there we've got these 16 cameras set out around the course to pick up what's going on. A terribly complicated job to cover cyclocross, but there we are with Heidelberg starting the juniors underway. There are some 74 riders, this ever important start. They go along the stretch of road turning sharp left, as you saw on your cameras on the camera picture earlier on. And there we go now. Already the Dutch setting quite a good pace at the front. That's Gommers from Holland, beginning to pull out the rest of the string. And the Czech jersey ever present as well. So that's the order going through after the start, cutting through there where the pits are. They can change bike at this stage. No problem as far as the riders concerned. Still, one of the British riders trying to get his way through. And this little breakaway group then of 3 men now have got away to the front. Gommers together with the Czechoslovakian rider, that's Ausberg, just taking the lead now from Gommers, and the Belgians got up to him. That's really having a lot of support around the course burden, but he's beginning to struggle now. And so the Czechs beginning to put the hammer down, and quite amazingly the Belgians and the Czechs in this race are beginning to dominate it. Last year the best Belgian, Ben Burden, we just saw there, finished in 14th place at Corva in Italy, where it's a very, very fast course, and that's the problem. Down he goes. So the reigning world champion has gone, and he's lost his place now. 2 Gommers has gone away. Let's look at this in slow motion. Down he goes. So Ausberg lost a bit of ground there. Managed to get back up again, and a bit of a road race going on behind, and oh, that's tremendous. One of the Polish riders had just clicked a wheel, and down he's gone. You can see the state of the sand. This is going to be a hard man's course when the professionals get on this track. And Gommers looking fine here. A tall lad, 1.80 m. But nevertheless, Ausberg is forcing his way back through. And still the Belgian coming up to them. This man then, Ben Burden, back again with our 2 leaders. Well, the Belgians doing very well at the moment, because they've got Sven Niels up there in the top half dozen as well. David Williamson's also up there as well. He finished 23rd last year to Williamson, so there's quite a turn-up for the books now. And that's the gap they've opened up on Burden. Here he is. And those are 2 leaders, Ausberg and Gommers. Flag still waving in the breeze. That strong wind on Friday blew down a lot of the course markings, and equipment had to be all put back out again. See, up and down these dunes, this is a very, very tough course, because you have to go down running as well as going up it. No wonder they're picking the Belgians as being possibly to do well at this course compared with last year. I said their best man was in 14th spot, and here he is now, the best man in 3rd spot. His teammate Nice is coming up behind him. He was 21st last year. Looking back down there to see where the rest of them have gone, but this is a battle for the medals, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. This man in 3rd place. These are two are fighting out the 1st and 2nd spot. Still anybody's race. Well, this man in the lead now, look at him kicking up that sand, the Dutchman, and I thought for a moment that he was going in to change his bike, Hausberger, but he hasn't done so, so Hausberger running through, and he's not holding the pace then. Looking back there, see, swerved in fact, I think he got himself stuck in a wheel track, and out he comes. So Hausberger losing ground there to Gommers. This very tall junior. He was the Dutch juvenile champion a couple of years ago, twice junior champion as well, and this year he won what they call Espoirs, because today in this junior race they're allowed to race it. They're still 19. Normally the age group was 18, but they've pushed it up now, the UCI, to 19 on the day of the race. And so this man then in the lead, coming through here on the bell lap, 7th last year, but already 4 times champion in Holland. And this is the reigning world champion coming back after him. Hausberger trying to close that gap. Good continue the Dutch supporters come down to the race today. Right on the edge almost of the North Sea. Just a bit south of Ostend. It's only just across the Belgian border. I know a lot of Brits have made their way here by going across either on the Sally line to Ostend or across to Calais and just driven up from there. And this man then beginning to lap riders. Man, I should say boy, but look how tall he is. This is the sort of conditions that tall men, when it comes to running, can in fact relish the conditions. Forcing his bike through the gunge, hand off and away. And this is a time when you really are beginning to tire somewhat and feeling the pain and suffering of the race. And he's just coming up then to one of the lap riders, and just shows you the state of some of these riders here. That one falling down then was Elvis Zucchi from Italy. Is that a capital, Zucchi? So here comes our victor. The junior champion, exhausted by his effort, but elated by it all. Gommers from Holland. And there, don't worry about those lap riders here behind the 2nd place rider. Disappointing then, having fallen on the last lap for Hausberger of Czechoslovakia. And Ben Burden coming in then for Belgium to take 3rd spot. Sun's come out to warm the course and the spectators, waiting for the start of the open race. So the junior race over and done with. No glory as far as the Brits were concerned. Hammond, our champion 2 years ago, is riding in the race that's going to come up shortly. We'll take a break, do come back in a couple of minutes. The Henk Denise, by the way, the one in 1993, it was quite a surprise there, because he also took the World Mountain Bike Championship. And that was the first time the double had ever been done. And then Denise went on to win the mountain bike championship back end of last year again in France. So he had 2 world champions for mountain bikes on the trot, and one at cyclocross as an amateur. But this time we're mixing up together there. Dominic Arnaud from France, the reigning world champion. Mike Klug, really the digger, I suppose, as far as he's concerned, the joker from this little lot, 1992. You can never know what he's up to. And Simonik also riding here today. Good to see him back in action, by the way, because he had a slight accident in his motor car, and there was a fatality, and at one time it looked like he was going to go to jail, but they let him out anyway as far as this championship is concerned. And Simonik goes back a long time. He's caught up there as a previous winner. And in fact, he's 31 years of age now, goes back to being an amateur champion of the world in 83 and 84, and the professionals in 1991. Give you some idea, that way the wind speed, 20 kilometers per hour in a westerly direction, 96% chance of rain, and it's 12 degrees centigrade. There you are, the Brits down there in the centre. Let's have a quick look at the white jerseys with the Union Jacks on the sleeves, and let's give a rundown then for Great Britain. Excuse me, rest of the viewers listening to English and other countries, but number 50, Stuart Blunt. Number 51, Roger Hammond, the Great Britain champion, who's also our national criterium champion, and was the amateur junior world champion as well. So junior champion, will he stand the strain in moving up? And here we are, right on key, the bold Roger, who we wish the best of luck today. James Norfolk, number 53 for Great Britain. 55 is Peter Stevens, and past amateur champion, now riding pro. And also in there, Chris Young, another of the ex-British champions. Sorry that Steve Doos couldn't ride. There's number 20 on the left-hand side. That was Henk Denise for Denmark. And here, Dominic Arnaud, the reigning world champion. He's not really been taking part in many of the Zoo Prestige races this year. He prefers the faster courses, and he didn't feel that some of the mud-bashing ones were the ones he wanted to go and take part in. So in fact, we're going to see him now up against the very specialist riders when it comes to riding through the mud. Well, of course, as far as the Belgians are concerned, with the man who's leading in the Zoo Prestige series, Henniger's, he's got to be the top tip for this race. But the Belgians have got a lot more top talent in as well. Danny Devine, second in the championship for the world for Belgium, sorry, world second in their championship, is also riding. Mark Janssens, who is leading in the Zoo Prestige series as well. And Peter van den Bailey, the champion of Belgium. So the Belgians then got a very, very strong team here, all lined up and on home ground. They didn't have too good a time last year in the championships in Italy either, a bit too fast. See the tall from the centre, that's Stevenson down there, the British jerseys, and Mike Klug close to this side of the camera to Roger Hammond. Well, Klug's smiling there. Let's hope he smiles in this race. What a character that man is. Misfortune last year when he had trouble with his gears in the last lap, and unfortunately just dropped out in second place. Mike, in fact, riding in the championships at Germany, finished no better than 5th place because he'd been riding in a mountain bike race. Here is Adrian van der Poel. 5 times this man's had the silver medal in the World Championships. We wish him the best of luck. I know Adrian's got tremendous support across the whole of Europe, and particularly in Britain, where Brits remember him winning a stage in the Kellogg's Pro Tour into Leeds, and when he was riding in the Cyclocross Championship of the World, when we had them in Leeds, he could again do no better than finishing 3rd spot. So Adi van der Poel got his first silver medal way back in 1985. Look at Klug, he's in fine form, isn't he, there, right down the centre. And this is a fella, as ever, stands a long way back from his razor first thing in the morning. Thank you. Well, let's hope your hand's all right. The last time I saw him in a mountain bike race, he nearly ripped his fingers off. But he's looking okay now. So this is it, the anxious moments, the start then, the riders here ready to get underway. Henniger's, Klug, Denise, we've seen those. Pontini of Italy is a possible champion. Here, there, Radimir Sumnik from Czechoslovakia lining up on the start line. Danny Devine, Adrian van der Poel. We see most of the men who could be in with a shout at the end of this race. The riders lined up then, they've drawn lots. There are 20 nations taking part in this one. The top rank there, Holland, Belgium, Switzerland, France, Czechoslovakia, Italy, Germany, Great Britain, and Spain, Denmark, Slovakia. Behind them, Luxembourg, Poland, the Ukraine, Russia. Americans are here, Hungary, Canada, Lithuania, and Japan. We welcome the Americans, by the way. They brought their national champion across, Don Mara, who's been 5 times the champion of America. Won it again this year in fine form. And a fellow called Peter Webber, who was second in the championship. Watch out in number 41, because he's another ex-mountain bike rider. And look at those bikes, boys. See how fat those tyres are. Dominic Arnaud is riding on a bike with somewhat smaller wheels than normally to get clearance through all the sand and use those fatter tyres on them, because this is going to be, I suppose, almost a cross between a cross race and a mountain bike when you consider the soft conditions that they're going to have on the course to ride over the sand. But there's a great difference, this race then, for 1 hour and 1 lap, compared with the mountain bike racing lasting over some 2.5 to 3 hours. And many of the Brits have been riding well in mountain bikes this year. For the rally team, Clark and Baker not performing here today. Steve Dowes, unfortunately, our 7-time champion, not here today. He's had a bit of illness and an up and down season so far. But some of the riders whose efforts have been blunted, or in fact improved as far as distance is concerned by mountain biking, choosing not to ride the championship. Down the right hand side there, little jumping up and down from Pontoni. We'll have to see how that man crosses the gap gap between the amateurs and the professionals, because we're bringing together for the first time. So you're watching history here on Eurosport. The pros and the amateurs, open bike racing, the championship. Yeah, push them back a little bit. Doesn't really matter, does it, I suppose? A couple of centimetres or so at the start of a race like this. But it is so important, the start of the race, and you can see the anxious. Here, this is the back, the nations that aren't the strongest, waiting for the start. Concentration, that all-important start. Well, Chris Young for Great Britain, there's Henk Denise. My money's on him, by the way. I have a little bet on with some of my fellow commentators here. Roger Hammond, well, how will he go from... He's actually 20 today, Roger. It's his 20th birthday. So it's great jump to be coming up against some of these older men, like Klug, for instance. He's 31 years of age. We saw him. There they are, they're on the way now. And at the back there, a long delay before the other nations get going. And then Roger Hammond on the right-hand side for Great Britain, making quite a useful start at the moment, ploughing out from the start. He's been doing quite a bit of road riding, and this lad has already been going over to ride in the Continent. He's hit the front already. That's a good move by Hammond out there at the start, but they're going to come swarming up and around him now. Can he keep it up? Hammond then just being edged out by the Dutch moving across, and Hammond then swallowed up after a nice little start. Let's put him in the top 10, I suppose. And there, the rest of the field going to have to pick their way through to try and get up there, because you've got to be somewhere, and there, that's the trouble with the back markers. Some of the less experienced riders have brought down the tail enders, but with no disrespect to the other nations at the back, although I can see, in fact, that one or two of the Swiss have come off there in that crash. That's really upset them somewhat. So the Swiss, as far as they're concerned, this is a great national sport, and already that's a right nasty one. Well, that's a real thump that he's gone down. That one is Pascal Triebel, who won the championship in Luxembourg. Well, that's a Luxembourg champion. Is out of the race already. What a disappointment. And let's hope he's not badly... He looks like he is in trouble. So the champion of Luxembourg out of the race. The zigzag course that you saw on your screen earlier on, how it snakes backwards and forwards. Well, Frischnet already making a good start here, and Frischnet, who has been out of the seat. He's missed a couple of races recently, but he's back on form now, and Frischnet leading the chase. Hammond's dropped back quite a bit there. He's down right about 20 or so plays. Let him look back down at that crash, and that caused a lot of consternation behind. The Kluger up in the top three as well. Well, the Union Jack's out in force here, and Roger made a good start. Remember David Baker doing the same thing at Leeds a couple of years ago, and stayed up there. Look at Kluger, 1, 2, 3 from the front. Frischnet up there at the moment. Looks like Gorondel up there as well for Holland. I'll just check those for in a minute, but this is a nice little compact group, and Szymanek as well with them. So these are the sort of riders we'd expect to begin to lead the pace. In fact, no, it's down the bike that's gone straight through with the Helligers. We'll have to wait and check that one up. The Belgians then putting 2 minutes, the top half dozen already, and the crowd are going mad. Vociferous support. Belgium, so long a strong nation in cyclocross, had a bit of a lean time on and off, and so now on their home patch here, they're looking for a chance then of getting some revenge over the way in which they've lost out in recent years. The last champion down in Dubai of the world was way back in '89. Fortunately, this dry part of the course, able to string the riders out, and that congestion we saw to begin with now over, and it's a matter of getting your breath back, picking your way up, and working your way into the leading group. Riding on bikes which are more or less conventional road bikes with fat tyres and a lot of knobbles on the tyres to get plenty of grip. And talking of bikes, by the way, the UCI decided that the Graham Aubrey type bike can only be used on the track. They've been looking at the technical aspect of cycle racing. They've got a commission which has to report in May on the way in which bikes are being developed and what can and can't be allowed, and there's been a short-term decision that, or decision just made, that the Aubrey type bike can only be ridden on the track. So good as what Aubrey's going to do when it comes to riding in the time trials. We'll have to wait and see. as you'd expect, the profusion of jerseys at the front from Holland, Belgium, Czechoslovakia and Switzerland leading this little lot through. And already the Belgians having 2 men up there. That's a good start as far as they're concerned. Hedegers, Kluge, Verwecken has made it as well. So 2 Belgians and nicely sandwiched with the Dutch going well. There's Kluge, looking good, this man. He really does come on song when it really matters. Krishna, having done a very good start, has dropped back off the pace now. Well, barring accidents, the medals are going to come from somebody in this top dozen or so riders. They can be switching places, but generally speaking, you've got to be in that top 10 or so in the first half lap if you're in with a shout. Denise biding his time. Well, he's quite good at coming in from the back, by the way. Just an Addy van der Poel coming through, also still in the top 10. A bit of speedway, foot out, slide round the bend. Nice little group here. Kluge riding, by the way, with the Mathauser brakes on them. They're the hydraulic brakes on the front. Well, he's back to the almost cantilever at the back, and he's closing the gap up on them now. Jorgensen from Denmark also in the frame at the moment. Just in that top 10. Verwecken and Hedegers making quite a surprise at the moment. Well, Kluge's dropping out the frame. He's really decided to fall back a bit, and Van der Poel coming through. There goes Fishnet at the moment. So a lot of good talent beginning to drop behind, not being able to stand the pace. This is very, very quick stuff indeed at the front. So Grunwald won the championship of Holland, leading this little lot through. He is absolutely flying away with this one. Coming up then to compete the first of the laps. And the question is he going to wait for that little group to come up to him or press on with advantage? They're trying to recoup now to come up into this headwind finish. And Grunwald looking back to see Hedegers behind, but Verwecken now being joined then by De Vos. Little clock on the right hand side showing the gap back to the chasers, with De Vos here and Verwecken. Hedegers then closing the gap on Grunwald. That's him there, number 14. So that's Verwecken, my mistake, number 14. Mistook the 2 Belgians then. That's better than I thought from Verwecken. And he's going to close the gap on him. And he's looking very, very fast indeed at this section of the course. That's the chasing group. So Wim de Vos, number 90, saw go through with Hedegers. And just behind them then was the Swiss rider, Shetty. And the band in the background here, by the way, all the way around the course, the cowbells start ringing for the Belgians, sorry, for the Swiss riders. And the Belgians band's playing. And the smell of the embrocation at the start today is just wafting across where you're going to go and get your frites and your mayonnaise, staple Belgian diet of frites and mayonnaise. And a massive crowd turnout today. At least they haven't got the troubles that the last time we had in the World Championships in Belgium. Remember there at Lembeek when Albert Zweifel won the race, that people were just losing their boots and their Wellingtons in the thick gooey mud. It was just about a foot deep in gooey mud round what was like a potato field. But this course today, sapping the strength. A lot of chasing group we got coming up here. That very, very fast start put in by the Dutch rider. Grunendahl seems they've got Huub Kool's coming up at the moment, and Andy van der Poel, so the Dutch really are beginning to cram in a lot of riders in that chasing group. Well, there's got Kool and van der Poel and Frischnet then moving in as well. Of course, the advantage that some of the Dutch have had, the Belgians, they've been able to get down and train on this course. They've had a good look at it. Many people just come here for the first time and found themselves looking at these sand pits and wonder what they've let themselves in for. But still, if you're a cyclocross rider, you've got to be prepared to take part in events in all sorts of conditions. That's a very useful gap indeed. Back to De Vos. And then Helligers and the Swiss rider in there at the moment with them. Shady just sitting on the wheels right now. De Vos in the orange colour for Belgium, for Holland. Belgian rider, Helligers just behind. There we are. And Shady is the man bringing up the tail end. Letting them do the work at the moment. That's quite a nice little ride. He's seems to be sitting in. That's the battle really as far as the bronze medal's concerned. This fella's going like stink. I don't know how on earth he can keep this up. Opening up a gap that was closing down on the faster part of the course with the Becken coming up to him. But right now he's going away again. And Helligers has decided he's having enough of this one. He's trying to get out and catch up with those leaders. As he jumped on the bike, he sort of went down a couple of inches into the sand, and having to find a little track to drop down and make sure you don't get your wheels, your front wheel in one track and your back wheel in another track, because that's where the trouble's coming. I'm sure he's going away. I think I'm going to watch on this one. So he's reaching in his bag. Well, the Union Jacks are waving, but in vain at the moment. Roger Hammond, after a very good start, out of the frame at the moment, so it's disappointment, but still for 19 years of age, now 20 today. He really has come up against some very, very strong men indeed. Last time check we had coming through the finishing area was something like about 6 seconds. In fact, it's an illusion because still he's just on 7 seconds from the leader to the second place man. Waiting for Helligers to come into sight, the next Belgian. Down the slope he goes, and this fast part there, and he's 20 seconds back. Then followed by De Vos at 24. Then the Swiss rider coming into sight, Roland Shaiti at 28 seconds. You see the camping site here. I said to you, it's not far from the beach and the North Sea. And thank goodness the wind's dropped a bit because it was coming straight off the sea on Friday. 120 kilometres per hour it was blowing and blowing down all the course markings and was causing all sort of havoc. But certainly helped to dry the course out a bit from all the rain they've been having. But look at the state of this. Bucket and spade time. Bring out the donkeys and the kiss me cats. Nobody wanted to change the bikes a moment. Only about the sand, it doesn't really stick in between the forks. You watch these riders coming along now, they use those cantilever type brakes so that the mud doesn't get plugged up between the forks and the knobbly tyres. But on a sandy soil like this, you don't have the same problems when you're on very muddy conditions, so there isn't the same need for the riders to change their bikes and further stay on the one they're most accustomed to. They all have duplicates in the pits. But one thing that does happen, by the way, on this sort of terrain here. It's him leaping on and leaping off again. They're using these clipless pedals and running through sand like this. The sand gets up into the clipless pedals, and although they've developed clipless pedals to a fine art now, it can be sometimes difficult to get the feet back on the pedals because the sand gets right into all the mechanism and into your feet as well. But these lads are doing okay, so there's more trouble perhaps with the feet. And don't take my word for that. I was talking in fact to one of the riders who told me that was the problem. But nevertheless, these riders here all favouring that system now. It does mean you can just jump on your bike when you've gone over the top and slam your feet down the pedals, get a grip and get going again. Still our leader, Grunendahl, comfortably last check, some 6 seconds, 67 seconds ahead of the second place man. And here we are. In fact, they've now got to 9 to Verbecken, and Hedda goes up into third spot. The Belgians second and third. Let's watch the time check this time through. Saying we should watch the time check, and they've decided not to put it on the screen, so unless it pops up suddenly, I can tell you now the gap back to the second place man. In fact, there it is. Well, they say 4, but I watch says 10, so I have a suspicion that somebody forgot to press the button quick enough, so you can add a few seconds on that. It certainly was more than 4 seconds, but something the producer coming and thumping me. I think you can add about 5 seconds onto the time clock on the right-hand side. Ross on his way through, and still our leader. At least he can get some encouragement in the common language, because this part of Belgium, they speak Flemish and Dutch, very similar languages. I'm sure my Dutch commentators are going absolutely bananas here. Or I'd say our Dutch commentators are Belgian, so he's got a foot in both camps, I suppose, speaking in Dutch about a Dutch leader with 2 Belgians chasing him down. And look at this group here. Well, the reigning world champion's got himself in ahead of this little pack, and they're well down. There's a little road race developing at the back, but they're going to have to really work hard to close down on that one. Schweiler bring up the tail end there from Germany. And in fact, they've reeled back in number 120, Roland Schaety. So he's obviously taken a bit of a pasting and dropped out of the frame there. He was struggling somewhat. And Bakeverbel just in front of him. And Grunendahl is really going away from this little lot. He's making it look so easy, and that group at the back are trailing, and they're trying to work together. I don't think they're going to do much. Of course, long period in the saddle, 1 hour plus that extra 1 lap here. There he goes then. Grunendahl, junior champion in Pontchâteau in 1989. Verbecken coming up in second place at the moment. Just listen to that crowd round the course. So the problems that the Belgians had in the World Championships last year, they certainly are going to start to get their revenge this time. In the amateur ranks, Denise was first, Berner second, Pontoni was third, and in the professional competition last year, the winner, Dominic Arnold for France, Kluger, Germany, second place, and De Vos, who's now in what, about fourth or fifth place. Now I'm going to look at the problems. I told you, didn't know, about getting your wheel in the wrong rut, and that's what happened. So looks like he's okay, the bike's okay, so he'll be back in action shortly. Back with our leader, Grunendahl, still setting a fantastic pace in front of him. He doesn't look at all flustered. You think of the quality of the riders that are coming up behind him at the moment, and he really is giving him a lesson on this circuit. It's a 45 degree, just shows you how sharp they're running up there. And at the top of this little climb, the gap back to the second place man, Verbecken, is now at 14 seconds. Looks like it's closing down though by Hedegaard's coming up here. So It's only just, what, some 20 seconds to Hedegaard's, so I think at the moment he could have his teammate in sight. There's those nasty ruts that they drop down into. He flicks the bike round, over the top you go. We saw in the junior race that a crash has happened to the Czech rider. About 20-22 confirmed more or less. I made it 14 and 20, so we'll still say that. In fact, I think that the interesting battle now is as to whether Hedegaard can catch up here with the man in front of him. Whilst our leader's still opening up all the time. Remember lap 1 it was 6 seconds, then it's got about 14. So he's going away from it right now. Hedegaard doesn't look too comfy right at the moment to me. I can't think he's going to be satisfied just to settle back into a third-place medal, but those first three have left an enormous gap back to the chasers, and they've got to do something about it. Looking so calm, so cool, so collected. Very powerful young man. He's riding this one. Just shows you the advantage that they have as they come through from the amateur ranks, stay in the sport. It's a very tough old season, by the way, starting back in the end of September, right the way through. There's still another round of the Super Prestige, first week in February yet to be held. Winner of the World Cup competition has been Hedegaard, has been now back into third spot. And a quick look back to my notes. We are 13 and 22. Yes, that's what I've got. Yes, the World Cup with races been held in Switzerland, Holland, Spain, Belgium and France. Hedegaard has won that one with 73 points. Danny Dubai, we've not seen so far near the front of this one, second, and Mark Jansen's in third spot. So the Belgians 1, 2 and 3 just shows the strength of the opposition. But here this fellow Richard Grönendahl in the World Cup, no better than 9th in the World Cup, getting himself 8,500 Swiss francs for his trouble, and now he's giving the rest of them a fair old run for the money. And this really is a turn up for the books, the second place man. So the Belgians were looking for Dubai and Mark Janssens and Hedegaard to do the ride, and up pops a new man as far as they're concerned, Verbecken. In fact, looking back, he was the amateur champion of Belgium, so it's quite interesting to see that an amateur can come up, and they were all tipping the professionals that they would be the ones to be beaten in the Championship of the World today. And there we have it in second place, coming through now. So Richard Grönendahl going on the way through, winner of the Open Championship of Holland, leaving a lot of very, very classy riders behind. This field here that you're looking at now contains some pretty good men who should have been challenging for the medals, and first and second at the moment is certainly be an absolute turn-up for the books. And this is the young man that's causing all the trouble. Richard Grönendahl comes from St. if I can pronounce it right, Mikkelsgestel, and he was first ahead of Henk Baars with Kuiper to third spot. There, the Belgian amateur champion going through Erwin Verbecken, and being followed there by a number 9 Paul Hedegaard, who didn't contest the Belgian championships. Actually, he had the flu and was going through a bit of a bad patch. Hedegaard started the season in tremendous form. He was knocking hell out of everybody in the Prestige series, and there's some concern that would he hold his form through, and I think that bad patch of flu was one reason that, having started so fast early in the season, that he's beginning to struggle a little bit, but he's still picking up enough points to lead on the World Cup. And Hedegaard's now in third spot. This man's still in first. Richard Grönendahl. think Herregos is beginning to catch his man now. Professionals have that little bit more stamina. The amateurs are often very quick off the mark to begin with, and the strength and the experience of the older riders begins to come through, because Herregos, some 31 years of age, chasing after this younger amateur rider. And this man on the front then, just 22 years of age, by the way, junior champion 89, and the couple of times the Dutch champion. And yes, Herregos now has got up to his amateur teammate. Well, I'm sure the Belgian supporters here won't be worried which one's second and third, riding. It's still two Belgians. Well, of course, they do come out. The enormous supporters clubs around the course. You'll see the umbrellas and so on with the name of cafe and the riders on it as well. And masses of supporters go around throughout the winter season to the various events, and they have their own supporters clubs, particularly in Belgium and Holland and in Switzerland. That's a nice little group as far as the Belgians are concerned. There they are. Had tremendous success in cyclocross way back in the mid-60s. 1966, Eric de Vlaeminck took over, and de Vlaeminck then was champion of the world in 68, 69, 70, 71, 72 and 73 in London. I remember we had the championship of the world in London in 73 when de Vlaeminck won it. We had Chris Barber and his jazz band playing down the finishing straight to entertain everybody. It's a Crystal Palace course that de Vlaeminck won that one and completed all that tremendous success run. And the Belgians lost out the following year. Sorry, they won the following year when Van Dam won it, and then de Vlaeminck, and then they began to lose out a little bit when Zweifel of Switzerland came through. And here we're looking at the Dutchman coming up the hill now, Grunendal. And we have to go back to Henk Baars for the last champion of the world for Holland. That was at Gexo in 1990. But here the Belgians, as I say, so strong in cyclocross. Liberton reigned as world champion for 4 years, only being beaten in 1981 by Stam Schneider of Holland. So we're looking at the top nations, I suppose, in cyclocross, if the Swiss will forgive me on that one. And the two Belgians chasing up this man here. Waiting for second and third place riders to come into sight. They could work together. He looked over his shoulder, Verwecken, to see. In fact, he's been overtaken by Herregos. Herregos has gone past Verwecken. They're not working together. Looks like the amateur lad has blown a gasket, and that will leave Herregos to come up and chase after a leader. Now, this is going to be interesting. This is the calculations of a man, 31 years of age, champion of Belgium in 1993. And his trainer, Eric de Vlaeminck, has considered that in fact Herregos is unnatural for the course today. The ideal on the sandy soil is his sort of course, and he's got away from his countryman. He's pulled him back in. This is the fellow who's lying second for so long. Look at Herregos descending this little short slope, and we're only halfway through the race. And there he is, Herregos on the front. Comes from Malle near Antwerp. And there we are, that's confirmation then of the little group at the front. Dutch doing rather well there at the moment. I know Bonnard is also up with Van der Poel and Simonek in that little group too. And Verwecken comes from Antwerp. Concentration. See how he bounces the bike, just holds on those handlebars. He's doing the same here, but his legs don't seem to be pushing around quite the same. They begin to lap. That's one of the Hungarian riders. They'll be racing on about half an hour, and one of the Hungarian riders like to get himself caught up any moment now. These are controlled crossing points. You have to allow people to get across certain parts of the course. The whistles blow as the riders come into sight, and they close down the crossing points. People being able to go across and see different parts of the course. Again, the Hungarians, Maul, Nagy, Schneider taking part in this race, but there are the Our leader about to reel in after some 30-odd minutes of racing, that rider. Hedegaard's 10 seconds back of Vivek, and you can see that there. And even the police are starting to applaud here. I'm not surprised. Belgian national colours in second and third spot, and still about half an hour to go, or just over that of racing. And this is a fellow that's gone off like a greyhound. That long, straight stretch of road, the telephoto camera somewhat shortening the distance between the leader and the chasers, and we'll get another check on the time when they come through. We're waiting for that, so they switch back to the chasers with Voss and Fishnet, and Simonech going through. There, Van der Poel and Bernard from Holland. That's third place man. And this is our lead. Half an hour of racing. We didn't get a chance to check that time gap as the rider's now settling down on the far side of the course, and I rather think, because we've got just that 4 laps to go, this is a little group that have decided now that they're out to the medals. They're going to see who's going to be fourth, I think. Nobody wants to lead through. I think they can say bye-bye to a medal and something catastrophic happens to the group up in front. Nice little road race developing in the back, but I think that's Pontoni sliding off the front, the Italian. Decided he's had enough of this one and set up in chase. But the rest of them here have just got a coast round now. It's into Pontoni, I'm sure. Well, he's got the courage to have a go for that one. And Simonech and the rest have said, no, you can't do that. We'll go for it. And there we are, 10 seconds and 18, so it is coming down a little bit. Now Dubai and that other group there, not going to get himself another World Championships. And Van den Abele, number 11 at the back, that's the reigning Belgian professional champion. Hub Cools is the man bringing up the tail end for Holland, so they've got a nice little sandwich here with the leader, Groenendaal, way at the front. And there he goes. Second place rider coming into sight, and that gap, last time check, just some 14 seconds, and by the roar of this crowd here, that's going to be anything to help him on his way through. And that's certainly going to lift him, and I think we could be in for a very, very close finish at this rate of knots. So we've got a 31-year-old pro from Belgium, Hedegaard, chasing after the 22-year-old rider, Richard Groenendaal. And this is him on the front now. And being junior champion of the world, has he gone across then from 1989 to here 1994? From 5 years of progress. And this is the strong man trying to pull him back. World Cup winner this year. And here Verwecken, the amateur champion of Belgium. So we've seen some class bike riders here demonstrating their talents. You see down the handlebars, by the way, the two little levers sticking out. Those are much still favoured by the cyclocross riders. You can put your hand down there and change gear by a little quick flick. Some are not favouring to use the index type of mechs on their brake levers. But with all the guns and muck that flies up in some cyclocross events, and sometimes they want simplicity and the thought that if anything breaks, they can still fix it. And one thing about the old handlebar controls, you could give them a good old pull and get yourself a change of gear. It is Pontoni, I'm sure, but just wait for a little check on this one. But the rest of the little group that he was with now have decided that they've going to stay with their own little private battle. And it is Daniel Pontoni of Italy, who fell back into third spot last year much to everybody's surprise in the amateur race, when he was expecting to come out on top. He won about every race he took part in, but doing no better than third. And now he's moving up and having a crack down at trying to pick up the bronze medal in the open race. But he's got to get up to Vervecken. And really in yet another rider from Lithuanian rider. See the neat way that the bike goes over the shoulder, the hand comes round to hold the handlebars. These light bikes, that's an aluminium frame. Years gone by, we used to put a hoop of rubber between the top tube and the seat tube, so the bike would sit more comfortably on your shoulders. But nowadays they put it over the front end of the rider, and that in fact is just some 10 seconds according to my watch here. Remember, this is all totally unofficial, but I think it's certainly coming down progressively. That last check I got was 10 seconds, and there'll be something like about 3 laps to go when they come through this time. Really in the lap riders, that's the Lithuanian rider, Kavalovias. It seems on the tougher parts of the course that Hedegaard is pulling back the lead. On the fast part, it seems to hold about the same. On the tops, there's a participant in style. There's one man ploughing his way through the sand, the other one having to stick his bike on his shoulder. Look at the spurt of sand flying up the back wheel of Hedegaard, chasing him down. He's kicking on the pedals and pushing away, and it's just throwing up a spume of sand behind him. Vervecken, lost all his momentum. There we are, see how the arm goes under the top tube, round the front of the bike, grabs the brake lever, locks it steady on your shoulder. These man-made jumps here, Danny DeBar used to go over them by bouncing his bike across, actually while still sat in the saddle, bunny hopping them, but it's very sandy at this particular point here. There's not enough speed coming out them to bunny hop over the top of those. And let's go back then and look at Vervecken. He nearly clouted in fact he did just clout the barricade in the pit area. United States rider going through, and the gap then still just on 10 seconds. I said to you earlier, the States actually pulled over Don Meyer, who was the 5 times champion of America, and also Peter Weber, who was second USA Championships, who's an ex-ski man, then took part in mountain bike racing and has now taken to cyclocross, finishing second place. But the Americans, when they come out of mountain bike racing, don't seem to be able to take the cyclocross to the same strength that the opposite is done when some of our top cyclocross riders take to mountain biking. But this is real typical cyclocross stuff, this one today. Hard men riding a hard course. It really gets you, I can tell, right down into the lungs. The legs, after a while, just begin to seize up with the hard work and the incessant pressure. You can't ease up for a moment. Last year it did develop into something a bit of a road race on the faster course in Corva, and the clock is running this time, and yes, at 8 seconds that gap has come down, and I think Vervecken is holding his gap about the same. This little group of riders had been once going for 4th place, but they just have to sort of drift around now. They're way off the pace. Amazing gap that's been opened up by the 2 leaders. So Peter van den Abele, champion of Belgium, bring up the rear of that little group. There you can see on your screen what's left. And we're still looking at the second place man, and the gap last time check we had was just on 10 seconds. I should have thought by now that Herrigoes has to put on a bit more pressure coming on then inside what's like 3 laps to go. And here he is. The gap's still 10 seconds though. He sniffs a bit back here, a bit there, but what's he been doing? Round about no more than 2 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds a lap. So this could be almost down to a sprint finish, the way in which he's pulling back the leader. But it's not enough. The leader hasn't died suddenly. And our third place rider, who was one time around about 22 seconds, drifting back now to around about 30. So I think he's just got to sit in there and hope that Pontoni doesn't come up to him. But the little Italian had really launched an attack to try and pick up that silver medal. And let's hope that we can see him come into sight, because he certainly was looking for a chance to try and pick up that medal. But we're going back to our leader. Grunendahl. Let's look very closely at the way in which Herrigoes comes up here, because Herrigoes is the hard man in the hard part, and this lad set the pace right at the front all the way through. "56 seconds to Pontoni," and that means he's probably only around about 30 seconds back on the silver medal. So Pontoni, the Italian, has decided that he's got to have a go at this one, and he's hammering after the third place spot. This is the battle for first and second, with the camera foreshortening it, but a quick look at the watch, and it's still 10 seconds. He's doing nothing here at the moment to pull back that gap. So when Verbecken comes into sight now, he will know that coming up from behind, because the Belgians will certainly tell him to watch out for this one, that young Pontoni's going to try and catch him back. And you can see on his face here that he's beginning to struggle somewhat, Verbecken. Excuse me, my turn to come through. So close. It's now down to about 9 seconds. He sniffed 1 second out of it, Herrigoes. What a cracking race this is between these two. The rest are out of it. This is the battle for the gold medal, the first Open Championship of cyclocross. The Amateur Championship dates back to 1967, when Michel Pelchet of France won the first championship for amateurs way back in 67, and then last year was the last of the Amateur Championships when Denis won that one. And the professionals date back to 1950, when Jean Robic won the first professional cyclocross championship of the world. In fact, it was the French that invented cyclocross way back in 1900 it was, that a French conscript named Gousseau realized that army exercises could be improved by going on a bicycle. You could actually go on a bike across country and go there very quickly. So they started to do cross-country racing in the army, and that's where it all started. And in fact, bicycles were used by both sides during World War I. And in 1902, the first French cyclocross championship ever took place. And in England for many years we had cyclists versus harriers, and one at Walsall when the runners and the cyclists used to compete. So the sport got itself together in 1950 as far as the pros are concerned. So here on the 44th anniversary, when Jean Robic won it, the French dominated it to run until 1958. For 8 years the French were dominating the cyclocross. Then we had people like Volsol riding for Germany, Longo for Italy. They took charge the next 8 years. Then De Vlaeminck took over for Belgium, and in recent years it's been a right mixture of nations. Last year Dominic Arnaud of France won. The year before, Kluge from Denmark won. Szymanek of Czechoslovakia. The year before, Henk Baars, the last Dutchman to win, was in 1990, and the last Belgian to win was in 1989 when Danny de Baay won. So in fact we've now got two nations here battling out. De Baay winner for Belgium in 1989, Henk Baars winner for Holland in 1990, and now we've got a Dutchman and a Belgian fighting out to see who will be the 1994 world champion. That gap is now down to 6 seconds. You'd think you'd be able to just leap across and touch the man in front almost, but no, 6 seconds is still quite a useful little gap, and he's coming up faster, second by second. Grunendahl is being pulled back as the pressure is on, and here Verbecken trying to stay on the pace and keep out of the way of Pontoni, the Italian, who's trying to challenge him for the silver medal. Sorry, for the bronze medal. Still 6 seconds back to the Belgian rider, Paul Herregers here. Well, they make it 5 and 36 to Vervecken, so Pontoni can't be much more than about 14 or 15 seconds behind the bronze medal place. Now in a long shot of the camera, we should be able to see first and second riders almost on the same shot, and there they are, snaking their way around this course. So that's the battle for first and second place. Coming up then, some 3/4 an hour of hard racing. Grandel took the lead early on in the race after Roger Hammond of Great Britain launched an attack right at the start. He got swallowed up. This man swept through, took the lead. The gap is coming down. He'll soon be with him at this rate of knots. Was 6 seconds, it's now down to just 4 seconds. And all the supporters here on the Belgian border absolutely elated with the way in which they've got a second place man closing up on first. And the third still in the hands of Belgium. Erwin Vervecken. With the bell on the next lap, and look at this crowd going absolutely mad. Well, Belgians are known to love a drop of the fizzy brown liquid, so I think that all the pubs in this neck of the woods are going to be drunk dry by the time they finish this one. And there you see the hot dogs and the frites stands, the frites with mayonnaise, that Belgian delicacy, washed down with ample quantities of beer tonight. There'll be some celebrating in the old town tonight. We're not far away from Ostend either, and Dunkirk just down the road, so there'll be some local people made their way to this very, very interesting course. He's got to get on him now. Herregers is suddenly closing the gap. Not quite. Not quite. And he's done it, and he's come up to him, and look at that. That's a beautiful gesture. Magna, that shows you how cyclocross riders, they know how hard it is. And he tapped him on the shoulder, he came up to him. That was a magnificent gesture. Well, I know myself, having ridden this sport many years in the past, that when you get off your bikes at the end of it all, and you're in the mucky bath together, you celebrate the winners, you talk to the losers. It's a great sport. You have to like this sort of racing to do it. I can tell you it's tough, tough work. And there, a magnificent gesture from Herregers to say, well done to young Groenendaal. The 31-year-old ex-champion of Belgium tapping on the shoulder the young champion of Holland. And the two are now settling down with a lap and a half to go to see who takes the gold medal in this Open World Championship in Belgium. You can sense the elation and the people down the grandstands, apart from those who can see it on the television sets and the monitors in the grandstand, could hear the row out there, the noise, as Herregers caught up with the leader. They're certainly not let up at all, by the way. And Herregers has got to just pull something out and say to his chaser, well, you've got up to me, but I've got something left. Or are we going to be down to a sprint at the very end? Let's keep our fingers crossed that they stay upright. It's a very tricky course indeed. And with cyclocross, as you get tired, you begin to take the wrong line. And also you see they're now pulling in lap riders. And the lap riders can't hear the noise that's coming through. They may find the first man go through, like Groenendaal here, and not realise there's another man coming through and move out into your line. And then you can have all sorts of crowd. Van der Poel moving up behind Pontoni, Van Aert in there, Fishnet, Dubai and Simonek. Those are the riders we saw in that little group behind. But up here in front, that battle first and second. The leader will be, of course, having the advantage of being able to pick the particular line that he wants. They train on the course, they go round it, they know which is the best line. Hedegos will also be doing the same thing, but what Hedegos has got to do if he wants to go past at some point is find a line that will take him through and into the lead without taking too many risks. It's very difficult, say, for instance, to go running past someone on a short little run-up like this one. So on the bike, you've got to find a line. When they go down here, you see, that's not the place to try and overtake somebody. There's certain parts on the course, and the lap riders will be getting in the way. Not necessarily on purpose, but if they just happen to be there and somebody comes through and they don't hear them coming through, you actually shout with what breath you've got left in your lungs to the lap riders when you come up to them, and they will pull over and let you come through. But you've still got to get the right line. If the lap rider moves into the right line and you switch to the wrong line, then you can find yourself going into a rut you didn't expect to go into. So you really want to stay on your racing line. Vervecken back in third spot for the bronze medal, with Pontoni coming up to him, and this is the first and second group going through. So it's on 14 cameras around the course. We can pick them up just about anywhere on this course. There you see the camera in the background. I remember when we had the World Cyclocross Championships in Sutton Coalfield, in Sutton Park in Birmingham, when the BBC put the cameras out. They were staggered at how many cameras they had to put round the course to pick up the action. They don't think they'd ever employed so many cameras on outside broadcasts in the past. And with modern technology now, it's much more easier. The actual cables that carry the picture from the cameras into what we call the scanner, it's not much thicker than your finger now. But at one time, when television was first out doing outside broadcasting, your cable had to be as thick as your wrist, and so it was difficult to run the cables and provide the power that was necessary. So for a long time, sports like cyclocross and golf and so on, we just couldn't put the cameras around them to pick it up. And there we are, confirmation that Pontoni and Vervecken, 34 from 51, make for about 17 seconds. Yes, so there's not a lot in it. As far as the bronze medal is concerned, the young Pontoni, last we saw him, was absolutely hammering to get up to Vervecken. These two leaders having it all to themselves. Or having difficulty getting his foot out of the pedal. I told you earlier on that the sand is inclined to clog up the cleats of the quick release, and I saw earlier on that Grondal was having difficulty putting his foot back on the pedal and jamming it in. Let's hope he's got no mechanical problem that's going to have an effect upon this decision. And Vervecken being urged on because Pontoni coming up to him just some 17 seconds back on him. Pontoni, a little Italian, he's a spirited little fella, by the way, so he certainly isn't going to let this one go away without a fight. Getting in towards this back end of the course, don't think any way in which the two leaders are going to get caught, so lap rider. Interesting tactics then from Hedegos, having got up to Grondal, just to sit in there and get his breath back. Because he doesn't put the pressure on him, then the Dutchman will be quite happy to coast, well, not coast, but to go around about 98%. Just save a little bit. There we are, looks over his shoulder, see what damage he's doing. Our early leader as well, he was up, this fellow was, with Grondal. Still, Hedegos sitting on Grondal's wheel, letting him do all the work. Looking back for some of the back-end riders, that was Pontoni just there. Look at the position Hedegos is going on. He put his arms in the centre of the handlebars, rather like a time trialist, and just coasted through, looking very comfy indeed. We've just seen Pontoni trying to pull back on Vervecken. It's going to be a bit of a job for Pontoni in that last lap. Paul Hedegos looks remarkably cool, calm and collected here in the Belgian national colours, the blue jersey. American rider being overtaken, and that is 30 seconds back then to Vervecken. He's putting the pressure on. Paul Hedigus, Grøndal responding. Well, so far, Hedigus seems to be just applying a bit of pressure. The gap is about one length. The Grøndal's just holding him. This is going to be a really tricky last lap. There he goes. Has to ride hard to get away from his man, or save it for the sprint finish. And you never know in a case like this, down that finishing straight. It's better to try and open up a little bit of a gap here and get away. So the Dutch champion in a good position on the wheel, but he has to hang on to it. This little group way back off the pace, not even with a shout for a medal. Nice classy bunch of riders there. We've seen so many big names in that group, but they're not with it. This is the third place rider, Bevekken from Belgium, and these are our two leaders. They know each other well, having ridden against each other throughout the season in various races. Probably the most experienced of the two this season, Hedigus, winner of the World Cup. I'm looking back through the records. What I'm saying is to see, in fact, whether we've got a note at all of Grøndal being anywhere near him in the past. And here at Eindhoven in the second World Cup round, Hedigus won that one ahead of Simonic in second place, and Grøndal was in third spot at 22 seconds. So they've had a little battle in the past at Eindhoven. Of course, that's in Holland. That's when they were fairly close together on that occasion. Looking for the rest of the results, Hedigus been quite dominant. He won at Hoogstraten. He won the opening event at Eisenbach. So really, Hedigus, with the success had so far this year, could be looking for the championship this year. Hedigus still leading, as he's been doing so much throughout this year, except for the Belgian Championship when he had the flu. Grøndal's had to go back at him. This cheeky thing on Hedigus having to go at him again on the outside. These two are going hammer and tongs. It's a hell of a race, this one. Quicker off his bike, Grøndal, and look at the way that Hedigus trying to ride up that. They've always run up that one in the past. He's riding further. Hedigus has gone that one bit further than before. Hedigus decided to ride, and Grøndal was just doing what they'd all done before, get off at the same spot, and Hedigus must have worked out. That was where he gained just a few extra vital meters, and he's done it. That was real judgment on Hedigus' part. He kept going at a particular point in the course where they've been off and running, and he's opened up that gap which every cyclocross rider looks for, that little bit of understanding of the course where you know he can just put the pressure on where it hadn't been ridden like that before. And it takes a lot of courage, a lot of judgment, and that man has done just the right thing. He's opened up the gap, and Grøndal has got to reply to him and come back. Has he got anything left, Grøndal? He couldn't respond then. It's 5 seconds, and Grøndal's got to run up this bit and close down that gap. The young rider here, just some 22 years of age, and he looks a bit rough. Hedigus has absolutely launched a sizzling attack. Beautiful piece of judgment, and it looks like he's blown Grøndal's gasket. And Grøndal is now probably going to say, I gave it my best. I had been champion of the world at June in 1989. Perhaps my day will come, and perhaps no, I'm for second place, because this man heaving those cranks round has opened up a gap that Grøndal has got to really grit his teeth and try and close it down, but he's really struggling right now. Hedigus has to be very, very careful all the way around, though, not to let anything slip away. Watching those ruts again. He's got to keep the speed up. He mustn't let anything of that gap that he's obtained so far be frizzled away by just a slight error. He knows that he's got that lead. A Grenoble gritting his teeth behind, grits in more ways than one. His mouth is full of sand that flies off the wheels. He's spitting out all the time. Crowd has seen a tremendous battle here today. Hedegaard's still concerned about where his chase has got to. He sets at a cracking pace earlier on. One can just question as Verweken comes through in third spot as to whether he was just going a little bit too quick. They opened up a tremendous gap on the rest of the field. You can see all the Belgians here turning around to their mates. Hey, he's in front and he's really opened up. I'm beating hell out of the sand. You'll have your foot trodden, your hand trodden if you're not careful. Saxon, one of the, I won't say minor sponsors, the wrong word, because they do sponsor quite a big team as such, but it's not one of the top road teams in Belgium. They're gathering in momentum all the time. Going to be pleased with this one, with their man. Really looks though as he's taken flight. Nothing better than to find himself in the lead. Yes, he's waving already to the crowd. He's got it worked out. Absolutely superb piece of judgment. He chose exactly the right part of the course to go, and the crowd here absolutely over the moon for a Belgian victory in the first ever Open Championship of the world. Victor Paul Hedegaard of Belgium. In second place, the Dutch champion, coming across the line, ex-junior champion of the world, Richard Groenendaal, exhausted by his efforts. But I'm sure we'll see some more of this young man, because their age and experience finally proved to be the victor. Some 9 years difference between the two riders. And Verweken looking back to see where Pontoni's got to, and he's sprinting up down the left-hand side of the road. I should watch out for him, but he's not going to take the bronze medal. That's also going to Belgium. So Erwin Verweken takes the bronze medal with his third place, and just behind him, the previous amateur bronze medalist from Italy last year, Corva, in the blue jersey, Pontoni. Another rider we're going to see a lot more of in the future. This is a type of sport where experience over the years tells. Adrie van der Poel coming in here. I wonder if Adrie now will say goodbye to the cyclocross scene. 5 times silver medalist in the World Championships, and now, according to my notes, in 5th spot there. I'd love to see Adrie turn to mountain bike racing, to see how he could do that in the mountain bike scene. Well, the French rider Cyril Bernard up there in the top 10. The ex-world champion Dominic Arnaud having to coast in with the rest of the riders, not in with the shout today. Not his sort of course. He prefers the somewhat faster courses, and really today not his ideal stamping ground, because Dominic Arnaud, great road rider, stage victor in the Tour de France, much more at home on the faster surfaces than this very, very tough course today. Richard Groenendaal tried so hard, but the pressure was on towards the back end, and that early fast start they put in began to show. But a brilliant piece of precision work by Paul Hedegaard when he took the lead. That was sheer magic. Oh, looks like the Battle of the Somme, doesn't it? Oh, the dust and so on here. The winds come along and blowing up all the sand. Gives you some idea of the dunes on this course. Very interesting circuit indeed. There'll be questions afterwards about it, but cyclocross is all about mixtures of courses, and so we have a Belgian world champion last year, one from France. The year before that was Denmark. The year before that was Germany. The year before that it was Czechoslovakia. So it's been a right mixed league of nations at different parts of Europe. There's an attempt to make the World Cup go to other nations than Europe next year, because we've seen Japanese riders here today, Canadians and Americans and so on, but they're a long way behind the established nations. And this man here showing the depth of talent that exists in Belgium, where there's regular racing going on throughout the winter with all top-class men coming in. It's competition which breeds so much success, and here, as I said to you earlier, each of these riders have their own supporters club, and this lot are going to be absolutely over the moon about their man's performance this year. Half the trouble getting away from courses like this is the car parking and getting out, but a lot of this course is on part of military complex, and the spectators are using a big car park in the military establishment, so there's plenty of room for them to park and get out. This is the problem that we had last time we were in Belgium at the race at Lembeck. My car got stuck, and it took about half a dozen hefty Belgian gentlemen to bounce it out of the mud. It was everywhere, and chaps at tractors doing a great job pulling cars out. It was a right boggy do, I can tell you. So, waiting for the presentation of the awards, which will be updated shortly. And as ever, the interviews that are Belgian. I have very little knowledge, by the way, of the Flemish language, so I'll leave you to listen to this.
Je moet zo'n wedstrijd in Spa rijden, duizenden mensen hebben geroepen en ik heb gewoon kalm gebleven. Helemaal mijn eigen wedstrijd gereden. Ik denk dat ik een keer gepasseerd, even in de problemen met RW Verbeek, en ik dacht dat er tot het wiel van Groenendaal zou komen, maar dat was niet het geval.
So you can see why one has trouble with this language. The days when we're involved in the rally racing team, then managed to pick up just a few words here and there. I think most of them were the wrong words to use on television. But, anyway, the usual interview with the rider. So we're now looking at the crowd here, waiting for the presentation of the medals. Hein Verbruggen, the president of the UCI, is here. I think we're pleased with this massive turnout, because the one thing that has happened whilst this cyclocross been going on, the UCI have been having one of their regular meetings, and when we came out of that, if you don't mind me talking across this interview, is that the Varta team and the Festina team have been banned from competition from February onwards until such time as they pay the dues, which are for riders who were under contract last year. It appears a lot of riders haven't been paid, and the UCI have said that those two teams won't be allowed to compete in the racing earlier on. So that's a bit of news. But also some more news that I picked up over the weekend. It looks like Moser has actually flown to Mexico, believe it or not, for another attack on the hour record, and that should be taking place on Monday or Tuesday. I'll just fill in a couple of little things for you there. Brits back at home interested as we watch this battle between these two, and it really was a spirited performance towards the end, and battle against the watch for Mr. Moser in Mexico on Monday or Tuesday. So it's his last-ditch attempt. He had a look at the Bordeaux track. He rode around that. He's increased his gears somewhat by putting a longer crank on, 180mm crank. And this is the part. That's right. See how he rode through and up that little slope when Gondal decided to run. That was a very, very fine piece of judgment as far as Hedegaard's concerned, to take the lead there. Yep, well, disappointment and great enjoyment. Ride him, cowboy. Come on. I'm home and drive. I think that's what Lance Armstrong ought to have done when he won the World Road Championship, was bounced like that, because he comes from Texas, doesn't it? It's real cowboy tactics. But, all the cameramen getting the shot they want for the papers tomorrow, and this massive crowd. Certainly the UCI have, with the World Cup, which they want to sponsor and promote even more so next year, as we look back at some of the action, they're enlarging it next year, putting up a lot more prize money as well, and the UCI want to encourage the sport of cyclocross, and it'll be fascinating to see mountain bike riders switching into cyclocross, as they'll be doing vice versa as well. So the World Cup getting the support of the UCI. and we hope some television coverage as well during the year for you back at home to see these riders in action. So half the problem is, I said earlier on, with something like 14 cameras needed around the course, very often one has to just do it with handheld cameras and do a report afterwards, because the sheer cost of cabling a course like this is just tremendous. I think it's one of the biggest crowds I've seen at cyclocross for an awful long time. We had a very good turnout in Leeds, good turnout last year in Italy, but I've got a suspicion it's probably one of the biggest crowds I've seen. Look back here before we get to the official presentation. Yeah, the first World Championship I went to in 1973. Good Lord, that's 21 years ago now, and at Crystal Palace, and of course one that Halfa sponsored in Birmingham 1983, 10 years later, when Liberton won. So as far as the professionals are concerned, Erik de Vlaeminck in London and Liberton in Birmingham. So what happened then, Danny? This is the man who was the champion, last Belgian champion to win the Pro Championship in Pontchâteau in 1989, when Danny won just ahead of Adrie van der Poel. He's very pleased, by the way, for Paul Hedegaard. He's saying that it was an outstanding performance as far as the two riders up in front were concerned. He will certainly, I think, relish the fact that they've got two Belgians up here on the rostrum, and sandwiched neatly between them, the young Dutchman Richard Groenendaal. Waiting for the presentation of the medals. Here, experience in the centre. A man, leader on the World Cup this year, probably won more races, cyclocross races, than anybody else this season. Coming up to take his gold medal for Belgium then, Paul Hedegaard on Belgian soil, or I should say Belgian sand. A beautifully judged race to take him into the lead just when it mattered. The 1993 champion of Belgium, winner this year of the World Cup. And Erik de Vlaeminck, his trainer, is going to be very pleased, I think, with seeing his man up there with the gold medal and the jersey which says he is a champion of the world. Erik de Vlaeminck, his trainer, was 7 times world professional champion, and unfortunately earlier on this early October, Geert de Vlaeminck, Erik's son, was in a race when he crashed and died. He had some sort of heart attack, and so that was a great disappointment for the de Vlaeminck family. But I hope Erik gets some recompense from seeing this man here in the World Championship jersey for Belgium. Flowers of victory. The medals going in second place to Richard Groenendaal, and third place then to the other Belgian rider, Erwin Verwecken, who is the amateur champion of Belgium. The Belgians still run amateur and professional championships, so most of the countries throughout the world now are holding open championships. So our first open champion of the world, Paul Hedegaard from Belgium. Second, Richard Groenendaal, and in third place, Erwin Verwecken of Belgium. This, to me, was a great sporting gesture. We've seen them in all sports throughout the years, and Paul Hedegaard, recognising the great ride that Richard Groenendaal had put in, but when it came that final lap, he knew where to put the hammer down and rode off to be the Open champion of 1994. The clearing up operation tomorrow, the reading of the national newspapers and international newspapers will confirm that result there, that at Koksijde in the Open Championship of the World in 1994, Belgium dominated with first and third place. Bad luck then to Adrie van der Poel back in fifth, and to Daniel Pontoni, who tried so hard to get the bronze medal. To all the riders then who really contested a hard course today, I'm sure they'll go back and say it's a great championship, well organised, well attended, and on Eurosport we've enjoyed bringing it to you. So it's time for us here from Belgium to say bye-bye to you all.
Festina and cycling team have been banned from competition until they pay last year's salaries to some of their riders. Former Festina riders say they haven't been paid, include Stephen Rook, Eric van Locker, Falk Boden and Moro Guinea.